Pope Leo XIV pushed open the service door of the Vatican kitchens at 4:11 in the morning and saw for the first time the cardboard box that the woman had hidden under the sink. She had not heard the door. She was on her knees on the terracotta floor, in a black habit worn shiny at the elbows, scrubbing a grout line between two tiles with a toothbrush whose bristles had gone the color of weak tea. Her white veil was pinned crooked because she had pinned it in the dark at 3:40 in a converted broom closet 2 corridors away with no mirror. She was 78 years old. She had served in those kitchens for 51 years. The Pope had been told her name twice and had forgotten it once. He would not forget it again. He had come to the kitchens because of the joke. The afternoon before, at lunch in the Casa Santa Marta, Bishop Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray had stood at his place at the long walnut table and delivered the joke about le donne della cucina, the scullery women, he had said, who pray to the saints because they cannot afford the dentist. 6 bishops had laughed. The Pope had not laughed. He had also not spoken. By the time the espresso arrived, the Pope's silence had become, around the table, a story the bishops were already telling themselves, that the new American Pope had finally learned to choose his battles, that the boy from Dalton was being broken in by Rome at last. They were wrong about what he had been waiting for. He stood now in the kitchen doorway and watched her hands. Her knuckles were swollen the color of plums. 2 of her fingernails were ridged from a fall on the stairs in 2003, the year a previous pope had died, and the bishops had moved her cot twice because the choir needed the storage space. Beside her right knee, half concealed by a folded gray apron and pushed back against the white plaster, was the cardboard box. He saw, at one corner, the edge of a black and white photograph protruding from beneath the apron. He did not pull it out. He was a careful man. He had been a careful man for 41 years, ever since Dalton, Illinois, where his mother had taught him that the loudest voices in a room are almost never the ones telling the truth. He closed the door without sound. By the end of that week, Bishop Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray, prefect of the Dicastery for Patrimony, owner of a 2024 Maserati Quattroporte in Blue Vittoria, occupant of a 14-room apartment, 2 blocks from the Pantheon, would be on his knees in his cassock, in front of 72 witnesses, washing the swollen feet of the woman he had called a scullery woman with his own bare hands. The cardboard box would be on the table beside them. What was inside that box would dismantle, in 7 seconds, everything Bishop Aldobrandini Cray had ever believed about who he was. Bishop Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray was, by every visible measure, the most successful prelate of his generation. He was 69 years old. He had been ordained in 1981 in the Cathedral of Genoa. He had survived 4 pontificates, 3 Vatican financial scandals, and 1 cardiac surgery without losing either his portfolio or his color. He kept his office at 21 degrees Celsius year-round because his physician had told him in 2014 that warmer air dried the membranes of his throat, and he had, since then, refused to enter any room in which the climate had not been preset for his lungs. His office was 11 meters long. The carpet was new. The carpet was Persian. The carpet had been laid the previous October at a cost the Office of Patrimony had recorded as spese ordinari di manutentio, ordinary maintenance expenses, and the figure attached to that quiet line in the ledger that Bishop Aldo Brandini Cray believed no one outside his trusted notary would ever read was 142,000 euros. The woman scrubbing the kitchen floor at 4 in the morning earned, after deductions, 486 euros a month. The bishop's defense, when he was eventually pressed, would never vary. He had a single phrase he had used for 38 years in 7 languages across 2 continents and 4 sets of accusers. He used it that week. He had used it in 1992, in 2007, in 2018, and in the spring of 2024. He would use it for the last time in a room of 72 witnesses on a Friday in October. The church, he liked to say, is a building. Buildings need patrons. Patrons need rooms in which to be received with dignity. Charity has its place. Its place is not here. He had said it the previous afternoon to a young Argentine archbishop who had asked, mildly, why the kitchens at the Casa Santa Marta employed 3 full-time cleaning sisters and a part-time nun for less, between them, than the bishop's monthly outlay for bottled San Pellegrino. The Argentine had not pressed him. The Argentine, like the others, had learned that pressing Bishop Aldo Brandini Cray produced no result other than a quietly diminished reputation for oneself. The whistleblower, though no one would call her that then or later, was a 31-year-old archivist named Elena Tovar, 3rd Undersecretary in the Office of the Apostolic Camera, who in the 2nd week of September had been asked to compile for an internal review a list of all stipends paid to non-clerical religious personnel resident inside the walls. She had compiled the list. She had then compiled beside it a list of the maintenance expenses approved in the same fiscal year for the residences of the prefects of the 4 most senior dicasteries. She had set the 2 lists side by side. She had stared at them for a long time. She had then walked the documents in a manila folder marked only with the date into the office of the Pope's private secretary. The Pope had read them at his desk that evening. He had read them twice. He had drunk 1 cup of black tea and had not eaten the small biscuit on the saucer beside it. He had then taken the folder and a 2nd folder beside it, and placed both inside the center drawer of his desk and locked the drawer. The next morning at lunch, Bishop Aldo Brandini Cray had stood up at the walnut table and told his joke about La Donne della Cucina, and the Pope had not laughed. The bishops around the table had read his silence as deference. They were wrong. He had been waiting. He had been waiting for the 2nd folder. The 2nd folder, which Elena Tovar had set beneath the 1st because she had not been sure whether to include it, contained a single sheet. On the sheet were 3 names. Beside each name was a date, a sum, and a 1-word description of an apartment. The first name on the sheet was Bishop Maximilian Aldo Brandini Cray. The sum beside his name was di particolare intereste, of particular interest, and the 1-word description, in a hand that was Elena Tovar's and that she had underlined twice, was undeclared. The Pope had read the word undeclared 3 times. He had then walked to the window of his small study, which faced the inner courtyard where 2 pigeons had built a nest in the spring, and stood with his hands behind his back. He had stood there for 11 minutes. The pigeons had moved on by then. The nest, however, had stayed. He had thought about Dalton, Illinois. He had thought about his mother, who had cleaned the rectory of St. Bridget's for 36 years on a wage that had bought, every month, exactly enough heating oil to keep one room warm. He had thought about the priest at St. Bridget's, a kind man who had never once asked his mother what her hands were doing under the kitchen table during the homilies. Her hands had been counting coins. The coins had been the change from the grocery money. She had been calculating whether there would be enough that month for the second prescription. He had thought then about Sister what was her name, the woman who scrubbed the kitchen floor at 4 in the morning. He had decided, standing at the window, that he would find out. That night he had taken the cardigan he wore over his cassock in the privacy of his rooms, and the small flashlight he kept in his bedside drawer for the corridors, and he had walked, alone, the 420 paces between his bedroom and the service door of the Vatican kitchens. He had pushed the door open at 4:11 in the morning. He had seen the cardboard box. She rose from the floor at 4:10. She had not seen the Pope at the door. She did not know the door had been opened. She took the toothbrush and rinsed it under the cold tap because the hot tap in the deep sink had not worked since the 14th of November, and she had submitted 3 maintenance forms that had gone, all 3, into a folder in the Office of Patrimony marked Da Valutare, to be evaluated. The folder had not been opened. She wrung the toothbrush against the rim of the sink. She placed it in a small jar beside the powdered cleanser. She crossed herself. She blew on her knuckles because the cold tap had numbed them. Then she knelt again, this time beside the box, and slid it back against the plaster with both hands. She did not open it. She had not opened it in 4 months. She knew what was inside. Her name was Sister Maria Teresa Vázquez Iglesias. She had been born in 1947 in a village outside Cebu in the Philippines, the 7th of 9 children, the daughter of a fisherman who had drowned in 1953 and a woman who had raised the remaining children on the sale of dried mango at a roadside stall. She had entered the Carmelite Sisters of Our Lady of the Sea in 1965, at the age of 17, in a postulancy house on the Bay of Naples that the order had maintained for 58 years and that had been sold by the diocese in 1987 to a developer who had converted it into a hotel. She had been sent to Rome the year of the sale. She had been told it was a promotion. She had been put in the kitchens of the Casa Santa Marta and had stayed there. She had a sister still alive, in Naples. The sister's name was Carmencita. Carmencita was 81 and had stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The hospital bill for the previous month, which Sister Maria Teresa had folded into 3 and slid behind the small wooden crucifix on the wall of her room, was €3,411.17. Her monthly stipend, after the deductions the order took for room and board and the small premium for the funeral insurance her superiors had encouraged her to maintain, was €486. She sent 440 of those euros every month to Naples. The remaining €46 she kept in a tin under her cot. The cot was in a converted broom closet in the basement of the south wing of the Casa Santa Marta, 2 corridors from the kitchens. The closet measured 1 meter 90 by 1 meter 40. It had no window. The radiator on the far wall had not worked since the 14th of November. She had submitted 3 maintenance forms. The forms had gone into a folder in the Office of Patrimony marked da valutare. She had stopped submitting them in February. She had begun instead to sleep in 2 cardigans. Above her cot, on a nail driven into the plaster by a Polish electrician in 2011, hung a wooden crucifix the length of her hand. Behind the crucifix were 3 folded letters from her sister, the hospital bill from October, and a folded prayer card printed in 1962 in Manila with the face of a saint she had loved as a child. The Pope returned to the kitchens at 5:40 that evening. He came alone. He did not announce himself. He carried only the small black notebook in which he had written all his adult life, the names of people whose names he did not intend to forget. He found her at the deep sink, drying the heavy copper pans the chefs used for the soups. He stood quietly until she turned. When she turned, she dropped the pan. The pan struck the rim of the sink. The sound, in the empty kitchen, was the sound of a bell. She knelt at once to retrieve the pan. He knelt with her. "Holy Father," she said. "Sister," he said. "Please. Stand." She stood. He stood. He looked at her hands. He looked at her shoes, which were canvas, and which had been mended along the seam of the right toe with a strip of black electrical tape. "What is your name?" he said. "Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez Iglesias," she said. He wrote it down. He wrote it down in full. He underlined the surname twice. "Where do you sleep, Sister Maria Teresa?" She looked at the floor. She did not answer. "Please," he said. She told him. He asked to see the room. She walked him there. She did not speak on the way. He noticed that she walked with a small limp on the left side that she had learned, over decades, to disguise by altering the rhythm of her breath. He noticed that she paused before each set of stairs to grip the banister with both hands. She opened the door of the broom closet. He stood at the threshold. He did not step inside. He looked at the cot and the wooden crucifix and the folded cardigans and the tin under the cot and the radiator on the far wall and the small square of gray tape over the keyhole because the lock had broken in 2019 and she had been told that locks for the basement closets were non-priority, not priorities. He closed his eyes for the length of one breath. He opened them. "Sister," he said, "the box under the sink in the kitchen. May I see it?" She did not move. She did not blink. She said softly, "It is private, Holy Father." He nodded. "Then I will not look inside it," he said. "But I would like, if you permit, to know that it is safe." She looked at him. She looked at him for a long time. Something in her face, which had been still for 51 years inside the walls of the Casa Santa Marta, moved. She walked him back to the kitchen. She bent. She slid the box out from under the sink. She placed it on the steel preparation table between them. She did not open it. He did not open it. He placed his hand flat on the lid. He left it there for the length of 3 breaths. "Sister," he said, "I would like to ask one thing of you." On Friday at 1 o'clock, the bishops of the Dicastery for Patrimony will hold their monthly luncheon in the refectory. I would like you to be present in the room. I would like you to bring the box." She said nothing. "You do not have to open it," he said. "You do not have to speak. But I would like the box on the table beside me. May I ask that of you?" She looked at the box. She looked at him. She nodded once. He walked back to his rooms that night and opened the center drawer of his desk. He removed the second folder. He took out the single sheet with 3 names. He uncapped his pen. Beneath the third name, in his own hand, he wrote a 4th. The 4th was Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez Iglesias. He underlined her name 3 times. That night, for the first time since his election, the new American Pope did not sleep. He sat at his desk with the door of his study closed and wrote, by hand, on a single sheet of unwatermarked paper, the names of the actions he intended to take on Friday at 1 o'clock. The first name on the list was Bishop Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray. Friday came in colder than the week had promised. A rain that was almost sleet had fallen since dawn on the cobblestones of the Borgo. By 12:50, the refectory of the Dicastery for Patrimony had filled to its capacity. There were 72 persons in the room. 41 were prelates. 18 were lay administrators of the patrimony. 6 were notaries. 5 were members of the Pope's private staff. 1 was Elena Tovar, the archivist, who had been asked to attend in writing the evening before and who had not slept either. Bishop Aldobrandini Cray arrived at 12:58 in a freshly pressed cassock, the buttons gleaming, his pectoral cross the color of a winter coin. He took his customary seat at the head of the walnut table, opposite the chair traditionally reserved for the Pope, which was usually empty. The bishops on either side of him murmured greetings. He did not return them. He had spent the morning composing a remark about the new American Pope's caution, which he intended to deliver after the soup. He did not see the cardboard box. The cardboard box had been placed at 12:46 by Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez on a small folding chair just inside the door, behind the screen that separated the kitchen entrance from the refectory proper. She stood beside the chair. She did not sit. She was, by the standards of the room, invisible. At 12:59, the side door opened, and the Pope entered. He was not wearing the white he wore for audiences. He was wearing a plain black cassock and the simple wooden cross he had been ordained with in 1985. He carried no folder. He carried only the small black notebook. The bishops rose. He did not invite them to sit. He crossed the refectory and stood, not at his customary chair opposite the bishop, but beside the chair next to Aldobrandini Cray, at the head of the table where the most senior canon lawyer of the dicastery had been seated. The canon lawyer rose without being asked. The Pope took his place. He looked for a long moment at Bishop Aldobrandini Cray. Then he opened the notebook. Yesterday in this house, he said, a bishop made a joke about Le Don della Cucina. The bishop said that they pray to the saints because they cannot afford the dentist. 6 of you in this room laughed. I have written down which 6. The refectory went still. I am not here, he said, to discuss the joke. The joke was a small thing. The joke was a leaf on the surface of a pond. I am here this afternoon to drain the pond. He turned slightly toward Aldobrandini Cray. Eminence, he said, would you stand? The bishop stood. He was a tall man. He smiled, faintly. The smile was the smile of a man who has survived 3 financial scandals. Eminence, said the Pope, you are 69 years old. You were ordained on the 11th of June, 1981. You are the prefect of the dicastery for patrimony. You occupy an apartment of 14 rooms at number 12, Via dei Crociferi. The carpet in your office, which was laid in October of last year at a cost of 142,000 euros, was recorded in the ledgers of your dicastery as spes ordinarie di manutenzione. The 2024 Maserati Quattroporte in blue Vittoria, registration plate SCV 04417, was purchased in March on the patrimony of the Holy See. Your annual outlay on bottled mineral water alone for the calendar year 2024 was 11,640 euros. He paused. Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez Iglesias, he said, who has served in the kitchens of this house for 51 years, sleeps in a broom closet 2 corridors from the soup pots in which she scrubs your luncheons. Her radiator has not worked since the 14th of November. The lock on the door of her room has been broken since 2019. Her monthly stipend after deductions is 486 euros. She sends 440 of those euros every month to her elder sister Carmencita in Naples, who has stage 3 pancreatic cancer, and whose hospital bill for the month of October was 3,411 euros and 17 cents. The room did not breathe. You called her, Eminence, a woman who cannot afford the dentist. He closed the notebook. You were correct about the dentist, Eminence. You will be incorrect about everything else, beginning today. Bishop Aldobrandini Cray opened his mouth. He had prepared 2 sentences. He had prepared them at his desk that morning. The first sentence began with, "The church is a building." He did not deliver it. He saw, at that moment, over the Pope's shoulder, the small folding chair behind the screen and the woman standing beside it, and the cardboard box on the chair. He had not noticed the box before. "Sister," said the Pope, without turning his head, "would you bring the box?" She walked the length of the refectory. She walked slowly because of her left hip. The room watched her. She placed the box on the table between the Pope and the bishop. She did not open it. The Pope did not open it. "Eminence," said the Pope, "the box is hers. She has carried it with her in this house for 51 years. I have not looked inside it. I have asked her this afternoon if she would consent to show me one item from it. She has agreed. The item, she has told me, is a photograph." Sister Maria Teresa lifted the lid. She did not look into the box. She reached in by memory and lifted out a single black and white photograph its edges curled from heat, a small triangular tear at the upper right corner. She turned it face down on the table. She slid it across the walnut between the empty plates until it lay 6 centimeters from Bishop Aldo Brandini Cray's hand. She did not speak. He looked at the back of the photograph. There was an inscription on the back in a child's hand. The ink was brown. The letter shapes were not Italian. They were Spanish, and the handwriting was unmistakably that of a boy of about 7. It read, "Para la hermana Maria Teresa, que me dio de comer. Maximiliano. Napoli, 1962. For Sister Maria Teresa, who fed me. Maximiliano. Naples, 1962. He turned the photograph over. There was a boy in a borrowed white shirt kneeling at an altar rail, his hair flattened with water, his cheeks hollow. Beside him stood a young postulant nun, 16 years old, in a white veil that did not yet fit her, holding the boy's hand because the boy had been shaking. The boy was Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray. The postulant was Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez. He had been 8 years old. He had been a war orphan. He had been placed for 2 years and 4 months in the orphanage of Our Lady of the Sea, in the Bay of Naples, where a young postulant from a fishing village outside Cebu had been assigned to the kitchens. She had fed him every morning a piece of bread she had taken from her own ration. She had taught him to make the sign of the cross with his right hand because his left hand had been broken in the bombing and would never close properly again. He had not seen her since 1963. He had not, in 60 years, asked himself once where she had gone. The bishop, who had survived 4 pontificates, sat down. He did not sit down because the Pope had invited him. He sat down because his knees had stopped working. Sister Maria Teresa looked at him. She did not look at him with anger. She did not look at him with triumph. She looked at him as she had looked at him in 1962, when he had been 8 years old, and small, and afraid. She said in a voice that did not carry past the table, "Eminenza, il caffè si raffredda." Eminence. The coffee is getting cold. The bishop began without sound to weep. The Pope did not allow him to leave the room. The Pope instead removed his outer cassock, folded it, and laid it on the empty chair behind him. He asked of one of his private secretaries for a copper basin and warm water and a clean linen cloth. He asked of Sister Maria Teresa if she would permit him to sit. He asked of Bishop Aldo Brandini Cray if he would kneel. The bishop knelt. He knelt on the marble floor of the refectory. He took the linen cloth in his hands. The Pope poured the water. Sister Maria Teresa, after a long moment, sat in the chair the Pope had brought for her. She unbuckled, with hands she could not steady, the canvas shoes whose right seam had been mended with electrical tape. The bishop washed her feet. He did not perform a gesture. He performed an act. He worked slowly over each toe, over each knuckle, over the scar on her left heel that she had carried since 1971. He did not look up. He cried without sound. When he had finished, he placed the cloth, folded on the floor beside her shoes, and he laid his forehead against the marble for a long time. The Pope read aloud, then the numbered reforms. He read them from the small black notebook. The first line restored the kitchen's hot water. The second repaired the radiator in the basement of the south wing. The third replaced every lock on every broom closet in the residence. The fourth raised the monthly stipend of every non-clerical religious in the house to 2,100 euros, indexed annually. The fifth paid, in full and at once, the hospital costs of every direct family member of every such person, retroactive to 12 months. The sixth closed the Office of Patrimony's account at the dealership of Maserati Roma and ordered the immediate sale of the Quattraport at auction, the proceeds directed to the same fund. The seventh sealed the bishop's apartment at number 12 Via dei Crociferi for inspection. The eighth line was Bishop Aldobrandini Cray's salary. The Pope reduced it to 0. The ninth line was Bishop Aldobrandini Cray's resignation. The Pope refused it. He looked at the kneeling bishop, who had not yet lifted his forehead from the marble, and he said, "Eminence, you will not be permitted the comfort of leaving. You will remain in this house. You will continue every morning of your remaining service to attend to the corridor outside the kitchen at 4 o'clock. You will, with your own hands, keep it clean. The cardboard box will remain in this room. You will not open it. You will be permitted once a year, on the 11th of June, to look at the photograph." The bishop did not answer. The bishop could not answer. His shoulders shook against the marble. The defense that had served him for 38 years in 7 languages across 2 continents and 4 sets of accusers died in the silence of the refectory without ever leaving his mouth. The story did not end that afternoon. The Pope did not pretend that one luncheon in one refectory in one city had cured the disease of which Bishop Aldobrandini Cray had been a symptom. He said, in the private letter he wrote to the Dean of the College of Cardinals that evening, that he had not extinguished a fire. He had, he said, only opened one window in one room of one house, in which the smoke had been mistaken for 3 generations for incense. But the reforms were executed. The hot water in the kitchens was restored on the Monday morning at 6:12. The radiator in the basement of the south wing was repaired the same week by a Polish electrician named Tomasz Bielski, who refused payment because, he said, his own mother had cleaned a rectory in Krakow for 30 years and had slept, for the last 11, in a room without a window. The locks on the broom closets were replaced by the end of October. The stipend of every non-clerical religious in the residence rose, on the 1st of November, from 486 euros to 2,100 euros. The hospital bill of Carmencita Vasquez Iglesias in Naples was paid in a single transfer of 17,498 euros, retroactive to the previous October. Sister Maria Teresa was moved, the second Sunday of November, into a small room in the east wing of the Casa Santa Marta. The room had a window. The window faced the garden where the orange trees flowered in March. She was given, by order of the Pope, a chair beside the window, a small lamp, a new wooden crucifix that had been blessed by hand, and a key. The key worked. She kept the cardboard box on the table beside the bed. She kept beside the box a single envelope, sealed with brown tape, addressed in her own hand to the Holy Father, to be opened only after her death. She did not die that year. She did not die the year after. She lived in the room with the window for 4 years and 7 months. She died on the morning of the 4th of June, 2030, of a stroke, in her sleep, with her hand on the wooden crucifix that the Pope had given her. Her sister Carmencita, who had outlived 2 surgeons' predictions and was by then in her own room in a hospice the Holy See had quietly built outside Naples, died 11 days later. The Pope opened the envelope on the morning of the 5th of June. It contained 1 sheet of paper, folded twice, on which Sister Maria Teresa had written, in her careful Spanish hand, 4 lines. Santo Padre. He worked hard at the floors. He did not know me. I knew him. Please be merciful. The Pope read those 4 lines 200 times that year. Bishop Maximilian Aldobrandini Cray did not, in the end, leave the Casa Santa Marta. He could not. The Pope had refused his resignation. The cassock he had worn, freshly pressed, into the refectory on the Friday of the luncheon he wore again, without pressing, every morning at 3:50 for the rest of his life. He swept, with his own hands, the corridor outside the kitchen. He scrubbed, with his own hands, the grout lines between the terracotta tiles. He used a toothbrush whose bristles had gone the color of weak tea. He was permitted, once a year, on the 11th of June, to enter the refectory and to look for the length of 1 minute at the photograph. He kept, in the center drawer of the desk in his 11-meter office, a single object. It was a piece of black electrical tape, 8 centimeters long, that he had removed, with permission, from the right seam of a pair of canvas shoes on the day the seam had been replaced. He looked at the tape every morning. He looked at it for the rest of his life. This is where the story passes out of the Casa Santa Marta and into your hands. You were not in the refectory that Friday afternoon. You have never been to the Casa Santa Marta. You may never go. But you have, in your own life, in your own town, in your own building, in your own family, watched a man like Bishop Aldobrandini Cray deliver his small joke about the women who cannot afford the dentist, and you have, perhaps, not laughed, and you have also, perhaps, not spoken. The silence at that table is the architecture in which Sister Maria Teresa slept for 51 years on a cot in a broom closet 2 corridors from the soup pots. It is the architecture in which your mother, perhaps, counted coins under the kitchen table on a Sunday afternoon in 1968 to find out whether there was enough that month for the second prescription. It is the architecture in which the woman who cleans the corridor of your nursing home tonight, in Cleveland, in Tucson, in Pensacola, in the small town in Kentucky where you grew up, is paid $486 and sends 440 of them to a sister who is dying in a place you have never been. If this story has reached you, do 3 things. Like this video. Do not like it for the Pope. The Pope does not need your like. Like it for Sister Maria Teresa Vasquez Iglesias, who scrubbed terracotta grout lines for 51 years with a toothbrush, whose bristles had gone the color of weak tea, and whose name no bishop in that house had bothered to learn until a man from Dalton, Illinois, walked 420 paces in the dark at 4 in the morning and asked her for the first time what it was. Subscribe to this channel. Do not subscribe for entertainment. Subscribe because every person who subscribes is one more person on this earth who has decided that the architecture of silence will not pass through them. We are building on this channel a small army of the kind of people who, when the joke is told at the next table, will not laugh. Share this video. Share it with one person. Send it to the friend who works the night shift at the hospital and has not slept in 8 years. Send it to the daughter who is caring, alone, for the mother no one else will visit. Send it to the colleague who keeps telling, in the break room, the small joke about the women who clean the offices after dark. Send it with no message, just the link. Let the video do the talking. The video knows how. Somewhere tonight, in a building you will never enter, a woman of 78 is on her knees on a terracotta floor, scrubbing a grout line with a toothbrush whose bristles have gone the color of weak tea. She has a cardboard box under the sink. She has a photograph inside the box. She has a sister in another country who is dying. And she is waiting for you.